Hey everybody, Ben for the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to Bonehead Tabletop Sci-Fi. This is our channel where we dive into all things sci-fi wargaming. Okay, so new channel, we thought we'd do a video. Makes sense. And our first video is going to be on the games that are out and about for sci-fi at the moment. So the top sci-fi games of 2025, and these are the games that you can buy now, that are getting releases now, that are getting updated now, that are getting played now. So if you are at all interested in tabletop wargaming and you like sci-fi, then these are the games that I think we should be paying attention to. Now, spoiler alert before we go in, Warmachine, I am considering a sci-fi game. So if you think Warmachine is a fantasy game or want to know more about fantasy wargaming, then go and check out this video on our other channel, Bonehead Tabletop Fantasy, where we cover all the fantasy games. But we kind of had a chat and decided that Warmachine, because it's basically steampunk dreadnoughts with guns, fits a bit more along the lines of 40k than fantasy. And 40k is exactly where we're going to start, because if you like sci-fi wargaming, 40k is basically impossible to get away from. Now, the thing about 40k is, and I think this is almost inarguable, it has one of, if not the best laws, the best settings out there in sci-fi. I'm a big Star Trek guy. I also love Babylon 5, but 40k has a breadth and depth that I just don't know anything else has. Like, I think it's just incredible. It's given birth to so many games, so many stories, so many sub-stories. Like, I genuinely challenge you to find a better series of books than the Eisenhorn trilogy. Like, life-changingly good art can take place in the Warhammer setting. Now, when it comes to miniatures, they're not they're not slouches either. So when it comes to 40k, it is a lot of things, and one of them is a miniatures game with some pretty fantastic miniatures. Now, they've definitely got a very unique style. They've kind of made 40k the standard for sci-fi wargaming. Things are boxy, they are chunky, these are your space guys. They have kind of just unified all those things with a pinch of Grimdark, although the Grimdark has kind of gone away from 40k over the last few years, but they have got a unique style that is just, everybody is a human tank, and that is very satisfying. And the cool thing about 40k is you've got obviously a billion different races. You've got space elves, you've got naughty space elves, you've got jumpy space elves, you've got good humans, bad humans, medium humans, giant humans, short humans now, and a whole bunch of aliens too. So when it comes to 40k, you've got all sorts of things, great models for the most part, an incredible setting. And then there's also a game. Now, the game is going to be, whether you like it or not, is going to be up to you. It is a depthy game, but it is also a very popular game. So while I myself have not been tempted to delve fully into 40k, because it's a pretty immersive game, I think 40k is the kind of game that you play 40k and you don't play much else because of how much is going on in the meta of that game. But when it comes to it, the setting's amazing, the models are great, and the game is very popular. So if you are looking to play a tabletop sci-fi game where you can get a game all of the time, where you can go to a tournament a lot of the time, then it is 40k. But what if you like the models for 40k and like the setting for 40k, but don't particularly like the rules for 40k, or they're a bit in depth, or they're just not casual enough for you? Well, this game goes hand in hand, and if anyone's ever talking about 40k, this should be echoed around. Grimdark Future from One Page Rules is the game. So if someone's like, oh, I love the idea of 40k, but I don't really like playing it, or I don't really like the idea of the rules, it seems One Page Rules. This is the best miniatures agnostic game I have ever played. Now, I love the fantasy version and I love the sci-fi version. This game lets you take any model that you want and play it out. And there's two different versions that you kind of want to be aware of. There's Grimdark Future, which is the 40k analog. You get, I don't know, 2-3 tanks, 3-4 units of 5 to 10 dudes, some bigger dudes, a robot guy, a hero. Like, you get the force. You get a force on the pitch, on the tabletop. But there is also a Firefight, which is the skirmish version, which is also really good fun. Now, I think if you're going to try out OPR, give Firefight a couple of goes, because it is fast, and it's fast, but it's simple enough. And then you can build lots of rosters. You can take your Necromunda gang, you can take some Space Marines, you can take some Tyranids, you can kind of play them against each other, and it works so well. And when it comes to one-page rules, the biggest and most amazing thing is Army Forge. So if you want to build a Firefight unit, you just go here. Let's make some space. Let's make some alien hives. Let's some non-Tyranids, right? And you click it, and you've got all the different units you can take. Ooh, winged grunts there, massive spore, support grunts. Obviously, they've got non-IP infringing rules names, but I mean, you can take everything. And the cool thing about Army Forge is it's got all the rules right there for you. So it is a very simple game to play, but you will get a ton of play out of it. But I cannot move on without saying that one-page rules started as a rule set to play with other models. They have got thousands of their own models now in STL form. There is a physical version coming out as well, and they are doing their serious homework to build a lore and a setting all of their own. So what started as a better way or a different way to play 40k is now becoming its own game, its own setting with its own models, that you can also use other models from other games in. So one-page rules is just absolutely crushing it. And if you like the idea of playing sci-fi wargame with a big amount of units, medium amount of units, and you want to play with an alternating actination game, which I think is just so worth mentioning. I can't believe I didn't mention it before. Like, you activate a unit and your opponent activates a unit, then you activate another unit. It creates really interesting decisions on the tabletop, and it also means you're not going to get alpha wiped, which is the biggest and scariest things about a lot of war games. All right, so you start at 40k, and then you really talk about OPR as just being a different way to play that also has a ton of its own models. But back in the epoch long ago, in the dark times of the 2000s, there was another game, and it was the original 40k killer, and that game has returned. And of course, I am talking about Warmachine. So this is technically a fantasy game, but it just looks and feels so much like 40k that it really sits in the sci-fi realm for me. It is guns and robots, and while there's fantasy stuff in it, I would like to point out that there's also a whole bunch of swords in 40k as well. So I've put Warmachine in with the sci-fi games because it was built as an alternative to 40k. Now, Warmachine has its own very rich setting and has got some fantastic models. And one thing I really got to call out about Warmachine is they have got now a STL subscription. So you can get Warmachine models as STLs. So they are doing a very interesting thing where they've got the physical models, which are absolutely stunning. They do a great job presenting them. You've got the, you've got the classic war mechs, and it has its own very, very, very strong vibe. But can you see why I would consider this more sci-fi than fantasy these days? You've got a dreadnought robot, you've got a guy with a minigun, you've got a guy with a rocket launcher. I'm pro cannon, like generally in my fantasy wargaming, but it's a stretch to say that that is more fantasy than sci-fi. So yeah, it's a cool skirmish game. It's a lot of depth. The rules are really interesting. The 2d6 mechanic I think is really cool, but it is one of those games that is actually quite expensive to get into. Now, not as expensive as 40k, but the Warmachine models are not cheap. They are, however, very, very, very nicely done, and the rules have got a ton of play. It's a good, competitive, clean rule set, and it is coming back. I think it's in its second year since it's been purchased by Steamforge from Privateer Press. They used to have it, and they sold it to Steamforge, and Steamforge is doing its best to bring it back. And I am keeping my eye on this one because I really like what they're doing, and I liked the game back in the olden times. So I am definitely intrigued to see where they go with Warmachine. They've got some fantastic models. And I think, they've got the fantasy angle, they've got the weird angle, they've got the robot angle, and they just keep adding more to the game. So if you're interested in a game that's different, that gets releases, that's got a new and interesting rule set, Warmachine is one to watch. And if you've got a 3D printer, you can print some stuff for it too. All right, so those are the kind of army games. We call it army game, it's really platoon games, right? Where you got a few big vehicles, a few units of dudes, a few heroes, talking maybe 10 to 15 elements, units on the board. Then we've got the skirmish games, and we are back to Games Workshop territory with just one of the most iconic skirmish games to ever bless a tabletop, and that is Necromunda. Now, it's not as cool and retro as the 1995 one with green bases, blue terrain, and red guns, but they brought it back and they tweaked the rules, and this is probably the best skirmish rule set out there. Now, the awesome thing about Necromunda is that there's kind of different versions to play. The Hive War version is a 2D game where you are playing just basically flat down in tunnels. Then you've got classic Necromunda with all the buildings and stuff, and they've also released Hive Secundus, which is another 2D version. But when it comes to Necromunda, that means you can play in tunnels, you can play in towers, and they've also dropped Ash Wastes, which means you can kind of do you can kind of do a Mad Max version of Necromunda. So they've got you covered no matter which kind of angle you want to take to play Necromunda. They have got something for you, whether it's desert beasts and bikes and trucks. You can do the Mad Max thing. If it's just gribbly towers and all sorts, they are absolutely there. Now, they are going through and refreshing a lot of the original stuff and also expanding it. So the original Goliath and Orlocks and Spirers are now in the game, but they have added so much. You've got jetpacks, you've got exosuits, you've got, oh yes, the Redemptionists are back. Like, there's a ton of brilliant stuff with Necromunda. The only thing to flag about Munda is that it is absolutely positively best run as a campaign. One-offs are not as fun when it comes to Necromunda. Like, it's a good game, but its tactical depth, the real joy of it is playing the multiple games. Now, if that's what you want to do, and you can buy a couple of boxes of models and you will play and play and play. There's a ton of stuff you can do with terrain, which is going to be really exciting as well. The only downside, like I said, is that it's a kind of game that you want to play campaign wise, and it is very restrictive in which gangs you've got. There are some rules so that you can brew up your own stuff, but when it comes to Necromunda, you can't really bring a different sci-fi force or anything like that. So it is a great system that operates very much within its bounds, but very much within its bounds, you are going to have a very good play experience. Wonderful models. The only thing I'll flag is that some of them are a little bit fiddly. For example, the Delac gang, they've got their own, you have to glue the neck in separately to the other pieces. So they are gorgeous models, but they are going to make you work for it. And talking about gorgeous models that are going to make you work for it, hello, we've got Corvus Belli with Infinity. So you've got grungy sci-fi skirmish in Necromunda, which is kind of like a post-apocalyptic Judge Dredd situation with gangs and all sorts. Then you've got anime. You have got anime sci-fi skirmish with Infinity. Now, I've played Infinity. I don't think this edition, I think the last edition, and it is a brilliant game. It is, the way they do the activations is cool. Like, the tagline is that it's always your turn because your guys can react to other players. So as a gaming experience, it's fantastic as well. Now, when it comes to the models, they are superb, and they have done a great job with every single model, making it brilliant, unique, detailed. Now, most, if not all of this, is metal models, so bear that in mind, but they produce them so well that actually you're not going to hate your life. Look at this, you've got big old mechs, you've got Pano. They have got a brilliant setting for Infinity as well. So if you're going to get into Infinity, it's its own unique setting that you will have to be a part of. Each of the factions kind of has its own play style, but it is a super immersive and engaging game experience set in that world. It uses D20, you've got activations, so you get a go and a go and a go and a go, and then it's over, and then your opponent gets a go, 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 go. You can be with the same unit, a different unit, you can intersperse it. It presents a ton of really interesting tactical play on the pitch. The fact you get to react to stuff is really useful as well. It is a phenomenal universe with a brilliant game, and I mean, we're here to play with brilliant models, right? You are going to be hard pressed to find some better and more exciting sculpts than what they're running with Infinity. Like, this is just a booster for a normal guy. Look at that. a little mech suit. Oh, it's just phenomenal. If you like painting models, you've got to check out Infinity. And wrapping up our skirmish section of this video, we've got Halo. Halo is a video game from a while ago, and then a while ago, and then a while ago, and then just now. Halo is one of the most famous FPS games ever made, and the universe is brilliant, and Mantic, who make a bunch of great games, managed to grab the IP, and they put together basically a game of deathmatch, like a deathmatch FPS game on the tabletop, set in the Halo world with Halo models, and they have crushed it. This game is super popular at the moment. It is very much everywhere. They keep bringing out more releases for it, not every week, but every quarter. They're kind of introducing more teams, more fire teams from the game. So you have the original Spartans, which is, you know, Master Chief, and then you've got the elites, they've got the brutes have just dropped, and now they're dropping the ODST as well, which are the humans. They have done a superb job, and if you like Halo and you like kind of quick skirmish games, then this is definitely one to check out. I have been sitting on I'm super tempted by this. It's on the Christmas list, I think, for me, because I have heard nothing but great things about it, and the models that I've seen for it are really sweet. Now, when it comes to Halo, I would much rather play a spaceship game, but I mean, Master Chief flying around, shooting some elites, backed up with some ODST, that's a pretty good time. All right, so we've done armies, we've done skirmish, now we're going down a scale, because the beautiful thing about sci-fi wargaming is this is where you want lots of tanks and lots of ships and lots of mechs and lots of tanks. It's basically about tanks, especially for me. So when it comes to that, we've got Epic Warpath, which is again produced by Mantic. Now this is I think it's a 10 mil. They're calling it an epic scale sci-fi war game. So this is the Kickstarter page, and it is coming out properly very soon. So this Kickstarter has been worked through and is the best place for me to go, because I don't think they've got a landing page on their website for it just yet. Let's just double check. Shop. Do we have... no, it's not quite coming out. So this is one to watch. If you're a fan, however, of 10 mil games, this is definitely a very exciting release, because this is kind of, if you're my age, you remember Epic from Warhammer 40k, which was a bunch of tanks and a bunch of little dudes and all kinds of stuff. Well, this is that, but set in the Mantic sci-fi universe. Let's see if we can get some closer pictures. This is the Plague, so this is their army for this, and you can see some of the models here. Actually, some of these are being distributed now, so some people who have backed the Kickstarter have got it, but they are releasing them as and when the models come in, and the overall look of it is just such a classic war game. There is a picture with colored battle, like the app there. This is it, man. This is, if you like the look of these pictures, this is going to be very much a game for you. Now it uses well, does it use D8? I think it uses D8, and it's got a really interesting mechanic where you put one counter by the unit at the beginning of the turn secretly to determine what kind of mode it's going to activate. Is this unit of tanks going to dash across the board? Is it going to heavy fire? And you kind of got those choices to make, and then it's alternating activation. I'm going to activate this unit, it's running away. I'm going to activate this unit, it's charging you. But you get to play in this kind of realm, which just looks so deliciously retro. It's a beautiful combination of small scale wargaming from the 90s and 2000s mixed in with war games rules from the 2020s, and it's Mantic, so they got a whole bunch of giant awesome units for it as well. So I cannot wait for this to drop. They've got a Kickstarter they're doing now, so they've done the Kickstarter, now they're doing a campaign on Mini Factory at the end of September. So if you've got access to a 3D printer, you're going to be able to get your hands on some cool 10 mil sci-fi models. And talking of 10 mil sci-fi models, there is another game that's kicking around at the moment and doing quite nicely. Dropzone Commander is a phenomenal, and I mean phenomenal, 10 mil sci-fi game. Now they've produced a little mini game set in it, which I think is a really great place to get into the universe and experience some of their models. Now this is Dropzone Operation Artemis, which is kaiju against big mechs. Now, we've got our hands on this box set and we will be playing it at some point when I finish painting it up. But it's a great way to introduce yourself to 10mm wargaming. And then the danger happens there, because Dropzone Commander has been around for a while and they have got a load of units out there. And it is rumoured that there is a new edition of the full game coming later this year. So that is why it's on this list. Not only is it a fully fledged universe with a whole bunch of cool units and a really interesting gameplay style, like the idea is that you're bringing units onto the pitch, you're bringing units onto the board to capture certain areas, and it's a game not just of killing but of actual like ground and area control, which makes it quite dynamic. And you've actually got drop ships that come in and you can move the units around. Like, it creates it kind of like that semi RTS feel. Not only is it there, but also the fact that they're reinvesting, they're producing more plastics for it, and they're getting a new edition that's coming out either later this year or early next year, means that if you are a fan of small scale stuff, you are blessed, because you've got Epic Warpath landing now and you've got Dropzone Commander that's already out, that's getting a pending refresh. But if 10mm sci-fi is too big for you, then Hardwar has just dropped a Kickstarter that is dispatching and releasing now, which is a 6mm sci-fi game. Now, some of these sculpts have been around a little while. I'll tell you what, let's just go to the Kickstarter, because that will show a lot of the models. Now, again, we've got some of these on the brew so that we can show off and do a review, but this is a 6mm game featuring a ton of cool tanks and cool mechs, and a pretty cool play style as well. So you will have probably seen a couple of play videos on a few YouTube channels kicking around. I'm hoping that we can also join that and do that as well once we've got our kit set up. But I mean, it's mechs at 6mm with some really lovely detail, and the way they've prepped everything for this Kickstarter has made me very, very, very intrigued to see where the game goes. There's a free rules set available with quick play, which means there's going to be more detailed gameplay coming in later on. I think we've got ourselves this box and this box potentially, but they're just, it's cool looking mechs, cool looking tanks, and that just gets me very intrigued about where this game is going. So another one to watch as Hardwar finishes rolling out its Kickstarter, and we are probably going to start seeing more rules and more units land for this game. Continuing our roll into 6mm sci-fi, it is the OG 6mm sci-fi game. I think it's 6mm, but it's tiny mil anyway. It's Battletech. Now, Battletech has been around for, I think, over 40 years with basically no changes to the rules. So if you want a game that you can jump into and play and play and play and play, then Battletech is 100% the game for you. They've got a great setting. You've got video games you can play inside of it. There's books, there's lore, there's everything for Battletech. And now they've got a little box set coming that's caught my attention, which is Battletech Gothic, which is this kind of spiky Gothic version of Battletech that puts your mechs against other mechs, but they've also got rules, and I'm hoping at some point they'll produce models for it, for kind of like, they're not demons, but they look like demons. They're aberrants. So this is an alternate universe, which I think is a really great way to bring people into the game. Because when it comes to Battletech, because there's so much out there, it can be really difficult to find a place to start. But when a company does something like this, it's a one-off starter set in a subsphere, it's really easy for a player to come in, get to grips with the game, and know everything about the lore. And then from that point, they learn to love the game, which is a 2d6 hex-based game. You can then delve in deeper. Now, the cool thing about Battletech is you've got Battletech Gothic, then you've got Battletech Core, and then you've got a game version called Alpha Strike, which is Battletech without the hexes. So a proper miniatures game and not just on the hex base. And they've got Aces coming out, which is a co-op and solo version that's powered by cards. So you can actually just team up with a buddy, take a lance of mechs, and take on AI opponents. I love games that have that in it, and I think that's such a cool thing. So Battletech is something I am keeping my eye on. Battletech Gothic is going to be the way I start Battletech, and because I kind of, obsessive about my gaming, I imagine it won't stop there. And the last of our small scale voyage takes us into a little bit more of a steampunky world, and that is of Armoured Clash, which is a Dystopian Wars 10mm game. Now, our friend Rick, and if you followed our main channel, you'll know Rick, you've seen him on the channel a couple of times, is very excited about this game. And look at it. little tiny steampunk tanks is just such a cool vibe. Basically, this is an alternate universe, and I think it's set maybe late 1800s, early 1900s, and everything is steampunk. So you've kind of got Victorian infantry driving around on tanks with robot horses, with big buildings, with dirigibles and all kinds of stuff. It is such a unique little setting. It's like Jules Verne, and there's just so much cool stuff. And they've got a bunch of different armies out now. This has been coming out the last couple of years. This is produced by Warcradle, who are Wayland Games' design faction. And not only have they, yeah, they've released a load of stuff. Where's the actual shop? Let's just go to the shop. Let's just go to Wayland Games and let's have a look. Let's pick a unit to look at. You have got Armoured Clash Ultimate 2-player bundle. I like the Enlightened. So these are the UFO guys. They've got so many different armies and so many different units, and they're all of a really cool thing. And the fact they're 10 mil means you get like proper little regiments of infantry and some cavalry, and then you've got some, maybe some tanks and a steam train and a big cannon, and it's just a really cool universe in which you can play with a gigantic amount of tiny men, and I love the idea of that. But when it comes to this, not only have you got Armoured Clash, which is the 10 mil ground version, the thing I'm very excited about from Warcradle is that they are dropping version 4 of Dystopian Wars later this year. I've bust mine out storage because I got a whole bunch of ships from Dystopian Wars, so I am super excited to see what they do with this. The idea is that they're going to make Dystopian Wars easier to play, faster to play, and I think you sign me up for that. If I can get a game of Dystopian Wars or anything like that in an hour and a half to 2 hours, then we are on. We can have a great time. And there are so many brilliant sculpts in Dystopian Wars. This is steampunk World War I style battleships, and again, all the cool stuff about what we just said about Armoured Clash, with like this Victorian steampunk mixed with a little bit of Martians in some places. Dirigibles everywhere. This is just a phenomenal game. It's got its own very unique style, which is unapologetically steampunk. And I just cannot wait to see what they do with version 4. And the last game on the list that I have to mention here is Dropfleet Commander, because I am a big fan of spaceships. And there are no spaceship games out there at the moment being supported, with the exception of this. And look at the sculpts for this game. They still keep putting out models for this. They are just absolutely providing some unbelievably beautiful ships. Now, I have yet to play a game of Dropfleet, but the models are phenomenal, and again, it is very much on my to-do list because they have got a ton of fleets. This game has been around for quite a while. So you've got, here we go, you've got another ship, a resistance battleship, pre-order. Look at that. That is going to be a gigantic ship. Look at the detail that they put into these. This is absolutely wicked. So Dropfleet, if you're a spaceship kind of guy, definitely one to watch. All right, so there are a billion sci-fi games kicking around, and these are just the ones that I came across that interested me. So if there's a game out there that's going on that you're really interested in, you want to see us cover on the channel, then let us know below, because there's so much awesome gaming to be had. We cannot wait to work through it with you and show it off. But for now, we're going to wrap up. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back with more wargaming soon. Happy gaming. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to support the channel even further, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below, or come and join us on Patreon or YouTube members for bonus content and early access to everything we do on all the channels on the Bonehead network, because more wargaming is more better. Anyway, thanks so much for joining us. Happy gaming.